We're going to talk about pressure in another area geographically, and that's in Britain, of course, because it's election day there. Voters are heading to the polls in what's expected to be the most significant election for the country in decades. Now, recall the rules in the UK say we can't talk about polling today, but let's talk about what we can talk about with Edmund Heaphy over in London. Edmund?
Yes, Julie. So we are well over halfway through polling day today here in the UK. It's just after 4 p.m. and polls opened at 7 a.m. this morning. So there's about 6 hours to go until polls close at 10 p.m. It's been a pretty bruising 5-week election campaign, and obviously the main focus has been on Brexit. But it's the first winter election in nearly 50 years and the first December election in nearly a century. And as you said, due to traditions and restrictions, I can't talk much about the specific policy and political issues, but suffice to say it has been a battle between Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party and Jeremy Corbyn's Labour Party. Sterling is down today by around 0.6%, mainly on the back of election-related jitters. It had been up earlier in the day. So what's going to happen now is that polling is happening across 650 constituencies here in the UK, and each one will elect a single MP across England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland. We'll have the first real indication of the result as soon as polls close, when the BBC publishes an exit poll.
David, what's at stake for investors, whether it's a endorsement of let's get out with Brexit or if it's an endorsement of Jeremy Corbyn, who wants to nationalize everything?
Oh my gosh. How do you sort through this? We are dismembering relationships. Brexit is dismembering, and they haven't yet resolved which limb to saw off the body. That's still ahead. What have we seen? We have seen capital flight. We have seen financial services relocate in Frankfurt or Paris. Have we seen anything come in to London? No. And do you have an expectation it will? No. So under those circumstances, you have to make investment decisions in this foggy interim transition. Same thing is going on. We just talked about it with China. So back away from the specific of Brexit or China and say, for decades, the world was moving towards interdependence, trade, dialogue, repression of belligerency. Let's get along. What are we doing now? We're into isolationism, protectionism, disturbance, disruption, creating new groups and segments. USMCA is North America. China will have its own circle. So it's a massively changing world. I spent my entire adult life that was in public service and in organizational service trying to open up dialogue, have peaceful resolution. And so all that I believed in is upside down. How you navigate through this and how you do it in investment allocation is bewildering. It's bewildering. We sit on this show and you're kind enough to have me back. You'll throw me out. I'm now being Grinch. Yeah. So, and talk about what we've been reporting on, and it's disruption.
What's so fascinating about that disruption is that a lot of people are just, sort of holding their breath, closing their eyes, whatever you want to call it, and buying, right? Because even in the UK, right, we've seen the pound rebound a little bit. We've had investors come on the show and say, buy UK assets, buy UK stocks. The US stock market's doing pretty well. We're at record highs today.
I mean, there's this huge paradox, Julie. For the past decade, we've seen this trend that David's talked about, which is the end of globalism, the rise of nationalism and populism. And yet, at the same time, the S&P 500 is up over 178% this decade. So that doesn't make sense in a way. But you're seeing people thinking pertaining to the UK specifically, like, oh, bottom fishing, it's going to turn around. It's always going to be the UK. I don't agree. And I think that David's right also that this is a huge mess. I mean, trying to figure out what's going on there. First of all, I think if Boris Johnson doesn't win, I'll be shocked. I mean, there's all the other parties will break up the non-Brexit vote because you've got the Scottish National Party. The Labour Party is not per se against Brexit, although they probably are. The Scottish National Party, the third biggest party, is against Brexit. The Liberal Democrats, the fourth biggest party, is against Brexit.
Right.
So that's going to split up the non-Brexit vote. So Boris Johnson has to win this election, I think. I don't think there's any question. But then the path is not clear.
Then
You'd
what?
think that it would be clear, like, okay, you're going to have Boris Johnson, a Trump-like figure, but it's not clear after that
because
even.
he still has to get Parliament on board.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.